All right, everyone, happy hump day. Woohoo! Setting a new meaning for that phrase. What you'll want to have today is a strap, and to prepare, go ahead and create a loop on that strap. You might have to tie it if you don't have this one with a buckle, and create a loop that is the diameter of almost your shoulders width apart. So almost maybe like an inch shorter, so that if you stick your upper arms inside of the loop, just above your elbows, if you try to pull that loop apart, you won't be able to splay the elbows wider than your shoulders distance. And once you do have that loop and possibly some blocks, if you're feeling any tightness in your hamstrings or your lower back, blocks might be useful today. So I'll go ahead and have our little theme talk. I'd like you to do some movements to begin. So find a way to sit up if you want to prop your pelvis up on something, if you want to sit on your calves, so that you can really be upright and feel a lot of space in your neck. Relax the shoulders down. And we're just going to do some shoulder flossing as I begin this talk. So have your hands apart, holding the strap tightly, and your elbows straight, shoulders relaxed away from the neck. And you'll simply inhale, raise the arms overhead, and exhale, lower the arms all the way behind you and down. So if you're not able to lower the arms all the way, you'll probably have to step the hands apart wider, and then keep that distance for a while until you might feel warmer in the shoulders, doing this several times, warming up the shoulders. So really slow. Use this as a way to connect with slower, conscious breaths. So yesterday we talked about the power of vulnerability, inspired by the TED Talk by Brené Brown. And in the past several weeks, we've been talking about the chakras. And today I'd like to focus on the throat chakra in terms of this talk, which is, if you remember, our ability to communicate our truth with kindness, but not only communicate what we need to say, but to be able to understand or listen to understand to others' communications as well. So I dove into this book called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, and it is a wonderful read. I highly recommend it, especially during these times when there's so many opinions, battling against each other these times, probably all the time. So I wanted to talk about a part here when it mentions vulnerability and empathy as both empowering tools for self-expression. Self-expression becomes easier, however, after we empathize with others, because we will then have touched their humanness and realized the common qualities we share. The more we connect with the feelings and needs behind their words, the less frightening it is to open up to other people. The situations where we are the most reluctant to express vulnerability are often those where we want to maintain a tough image for fear of losing authority or control. I'm going to share a little story from this book, but go ahead and put that strap aside, and we're going to come into a little thread the needle stretch across the upper back. So come on down to all fours, hands and knees, setting your knees right under your hips. Set your wrists a couple inches in front of your shoulders to start. Then with an inhalation, raise the right arm up, opening the chest. And as you exhale, thread the right arm underneath your left bent elbow, so the right palm is face up, and rest the right side of your head all the way down. And if it doesn't comfortably rest on the ground, use a block or something like it to rest your head on. And we'll be here for about a minute or so before we switch. So cultivate Ujjayi breath as you're here. Breathing through the nose, softly narrowing the back of your throat. So in this book, the author, Marshall, talks about the instance where he was hired to speak to a gang in Cleveland to help, pacify the neighborhood. And during his talk, he was becoming frustrated. So he decided to be vulnerable and tell the gang members, I'm hurt, I feel hurt, and I need to be treated with respect. Because two important things about nonviolent communication is to focus on your feelings and what you need with clarity. So that's what he expressed. And he was received with sarcasm, or so it sounds. That's my interpretation. The gang member said, "Oh, look, he needs to be so and so." And they all started to laugh. Too bad. And after a long internal process with himself, Marshall, of empathizing with his needs and his feelings, his ability to be vulnerable with those people, he had to also process what he was feeling and what he was needing, and then be able to set his ego aside and not react defensively, but constructively. So let's go ahead and start to press up onto all fours, and we'll begin to switch sides. So once you're on hands and knees, raise your left arm towards the sky and open your chest. With an exhale, thread the left arm underneath your right bent elbow and rest the left side of your head all the way down, maybe on a prop. The left palm is face up, so we're broadening the shoulder blades. So after his own internal process, he was able to perceive what that gang member said as in terms of what they felt and what they needed. And his own inner mind, he supposed that perhaps they were feeling manipulated in the past of other people trying to talk to them and teach them, and manipulated by saying things like, "I feel hurt," showing their actual disapproval of those gang members. So he communicated that, "Are you feeling," this is what he said to the gang members, "are you feeling that you need someone to speak to you that you trust, understands that the dangers of the neighborhood that you're living in?" So after a long process of trying to understand these gang members' needs, and when they finally came to a mutual understanding of, "Hey, look, this is what our gang, the people in our gang need," there was a certain shift. There was a connection made. And so if you remember Brene Brown's talk, connection is what she says is what we're all needing ultimately. It's one of our biggest purposes in life is connection. And vulnerability is one way to empower connection. So his ability to communicate his feelings, but then be able to look into the feelings of the other and actually acknowledge them, there's empathy, became such a powerful tool in that they acknowledge their universal humanness. So why is this important in yoga? Well, in order for us to have that peaceful communication with the world around us, that connection that supposedly we all are seeking, go ahead and start to lift your body up. Please find a comfortable seat. In order to have that empathy and be able to be vulnerable to the outside world, we need to acknowledge what is vulnerable within us. Perhaps what parts of us, our bodies, our inner selves, the child within, need to be heard, acknowledge in what you're feeling, what they're feeling, and what they're needing. So at the end of today's physical practice, we're going to have a short guided meditation on self-empathy. But I'd like you to figure out ways that this might resonate, if it does, any part of it with you. The idea of using empathy for yourself so that we fill our cups to overflow and be able to share with others. And vulnerability, that ability to see what we might want to not look at about ourselves, whether it's beliefs, mind stuff, self-criticism, or physical things. Something's injured, sometimes we say, "Oh, that's a bad me." But instead embracing it and being like, "Me, well, what are you telling me? What are you telling me that you need?" So not to go on longer about that, let's begin the yoga practice. Sitting tall, closing the eyes, connecting with breath. And through connecting with breath, connecting with inner being, as you join your palms to meet at your heart, bowing in, clarify if you have an intention to set or a dedication for your practice. And now as you continue to breathe through the nose, focus on using your diaphragm, expanding the belly as you inhale, filling up the lungs, and exhaling through the nose equally. And perhaps you'll choose to join me in 1 minute of Bhastrika Pranayama, bellows breath. It starts with the elbows bent, hands like this, and as you inhale, you raise the arms, spread the fingers. As you exhale, you bend the elbows, refist the hands rhythmically. So if you want to give that a try, I'm going to set the timer. Ready? Begin. And relax. Breathing naturally, just observe for a moment how you're feeling. And now continue to breathe through your nose back to Ujjayi Pranayama, where you're closing the lips and sustaining the breath while softly narrowing the back of your throat so that you engage your mind in a gentle whispering sound. And as you continue that, softly open your eyes. Let's make our way down to lying on the stomach, face down. We're gonna give the inner shoulders a stretch by lying on the ground with the right ear on the floor or on top of a block. Slide your right arm straight out to the right with a palm face down, and then press the floor away with your left hand so you can gently roll over onto your right hip. And then soften the right shoulder head further away from your neck. And then decide how much intensity you need at the start of the practice here to feel some opening in the front of your right shoulder and your chest. Perhaps you go deeper by leaning further back and stepping the left foot behind you on the floor. You might see how it feels to wrap the left arm behind you. Just 2 more deep breaths. Feel the breath broadening both collarbones away from your sternum towards each shoulder head. At the end of this exhale, slowly roll onto your stomach and begin to lean the left ear either on the floor or on top of a block. Slide the left arm straight out to the left with the palm face down, and then press the ground away with your right hand and gently lean into your left hip. Relax the left shoulder further away from your neck. And then notice if this side might need something different. Again, tuning into those sensations and feelings, having this nonviolent communication with your body and seeing what needs are being expressed. Perhaps you step the right foot behind you. Last 2 breaths. As you exhale, roll onto your stomach and let's come into Sphinx pose. But before you do, grab your strap with that loop that you've created and go ahead and stick your upper arms inside of that loop so it's above the elbows. And then do place your elbows on the floor, shoulders width apart, palms face down in Sphinx pose. So you want that loop to be taut. Draw the shoulder blades down your back ribs as you take a few breaths to broaden the collarbones and lift your sternum while lengthening the back of your neck. Now feel your pubic bone grounding as you actively lengthen your legs back, pointing the toes behind you, firm the tops of your feet onto the ground so much that your knees are not on the floor. Let's take a couple more deep breaths. Feel the fronts of your shoulders draw back, tops of the shoulders release down. Now keep firming down through your forearms, tuck your toes behind you, bring your feet to touch, And then actively press your heels back so much that as your knees lift, the front of your thighs also engage. Now look at your belly for a moment, engage it away from the mat towards your spine, and then gaze at the floor ahead of your thumbs. Take a deep breath. Exhale, press up into forearm plank, about 5 breaths here. So here, as you firm the heels back, elongate your tailbone towards your heels, lift the lower belly towards your back, broaden your shoulder blades apart, and lengthen all the sides of your neck, looking on the floor ahead, crown of the head reaching forward. Last 2 breaths. Broadening the chest, reaching the sternum forward. And then from here, set your knees onto the ground and keep the strap. Now plant your hands flat on the floor so your wrists are right under your shoulders and you are in modified plank pose. So let's do that retraction, protraction of the shoulder blades. Keep imagining that your spine is a straight line, like a flat back. And now squeeze your shoulder blades together as if you're trying to hold a marker in between them. That's retraction. Now splay the shoulder blades apart. Feel the lats engage. Try a few more. Inhale, squeeze the shoulder blades to retraction. Exhale, splay the shoulder blades to protraction. Inhale, squeeze. Notice the belly stays engaged. Exhale, protract. Your gaze is on the same spot forward. Squeeze. Exhale, protract. Now stay in protraction. Press the shoulder blades back, lengthen the sides of your neck, broaden the chest forward, and firm the belly. Now straighten both legs, and we're gonna hold plank for 5 breaths. Firm the heels back, lift the sides of your waist. Remember that essence of rooting down to rise means you're rebounding your way off the floor to finger spread to feel more of a rise up. You're creating space in the shoulder joints. Last 2 breaths. Feel the fronts of your thighs engage. And set your knees on the floor. Let's put the strap aside for just a moment. Tuck the toes behind, lift the pelvis back into downward facing dog. Now, if you want a few breaths of just shifting around any way that feels good to you, go ahead and take it. Otherwise, you might choose to be still right away. Feel in downward dog that you're pointing the index fingers forward so they're parallel to each other. The thumbs are wide and flat. You're rotating the outer sides of your upper arms towards the ground and continuing the protraction of the shoulder blades. Looking down towards your feet, lengthen the neck. Parallel the feet, hips width or wider apart. And now let's hold still for 3 deep Ujjayi breaths. Feel the front creases of your hips, the very tops of your thigh bones, lifting towards the sky and pulling back towards your rear wall. Feel how that lengthens the lower back as you firm the belly against it. Take another deep breath. And as you exhale, walk up to the front of your mat to stand in a forward fold. Parallel the feet apart. Inhale, press your legs to the floor ahead. Lengthen forward. Exhale, pulse. Inhale, sweep the arms up, gazing up as you relax the shoulders down. Exhale, trace your thumbs down to your heart. Sun salutation A. Inhale, sweep the space around you. Exhale, bow forward. If you have any tightness in the lower back, bend your knees when you bow. Inhale, press with the fingertips, lengthen halfway. Step back to plank pose. Now set your knees down, grab the strap. Again, let's loop the upper arms, same spot, just above the elbow creases. And now we're gonna take 3 chaturangas. You might have your knees on the floor or you might have your legs straight in plank. We're gonna inhale, glide forward. Exhale, bend the elbows to lower halfway. Notice the strap won't let you go any further. Use that cradle to engage the belly, look forward, and broaden the shoulder blades like protraction. Broaden the chest. As you exhale, firm the belly to push up and glide back, stacking shoulders over wrists. Try 2 more, whether knees are on the ground or legs straight. Inhale, forward. Exhale, bend the elbows 90 degrees. That's Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale here. Engage the belly. Exhale, push up and glide back. 1 more. Inhale, forward. When you lower, exhale. Notice that you're not shrugging the shoulders. You're lengthening the neck, broadening the chest. Use the exhale to lift and the exhale and to glide back. All right, now without the strap, feel the imprint of passing through Chaturanga. Let's start from downward dog. downward facing dog. Inhale forward into your version of plank pose. Exhale, glide forward past for chaturanga. Now you can lower all the way for cobra or upward dog. You flip the toes from chaturanga and coil the chest up. Engage the belly and lift the hip creases up and back. Downward facing dog. Let's stay for 3 to 5 deep breaths. Feel the weight of your skull, your brain, helping you to remember to relax the neck and just find some space away from the shoulders. Now with very bent knees, lift your heels and hips, look past your fingertips. At the end of your exhale, engage the lower belly, walk or lightly float to the top of your mat. Inhale, press with the hands, lengthen forward. Exhale, fold. Rooting down, inhale, rise up, palms meet. Exhale to gather at your heart. We're gonna semi-flow to establish the route of sun salutation V, and then we'll continuously flow on the second route. So bring it to touch for chair pose. 3 breaths in chair. Bend your knees together, sink your weight towards your heels, arms up, shoulders relaxed. Breathe in, exhale 3, hug in the front ribs, inhale. Exhale 2, shins glide back, inhale. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, lengthen to half forward fold, step to plank, or lightly float to chaturanga if you practice jumping. Breathe into cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog, so non-classical way. Keep your hips squared and inhale, raise the right leg back. Bend the knee towards your nose and exhale, lightly land the foot inside of your right hand. For warrior 1, keep your feet about hips width apart and spin the back heel down. Keep your hips facing forward, then inhale to rise up, arms overhead. So just about 3 breaths here. Bend your front knee right over the heel and scissor your right hip back. Straighten your left leg and press the outer heel on the floor, bringing the left hip forward. Lift the frontal hip bones, and with an exhalation, lower your hands and move into your form of vinyasa. Whether you take cat-cow, hold plank, chaturanga, back to downward facing dog. On your next inhale, keep your hips squared and raise the left leg behind you. As you exhale, engage the belly and lightly step the foot inside of your left hand. With your feet about hips width apart, drop the right heel, keep facing forward, and inhale to rise, warrior 1. So feel left knee bends right over the heel, scissor the hip back. Right outer heel firms down, right leg is straight, bring the right hip forward. Pelvis upright. With an exhale, lower through plank into your version of your vinyasa. So you know what your body is working with, whatever vulnerabilities that you need to address. You can change up the vinyasas. If you need to lay off your hands, if you're working with wrist stuff, if you need to modify downward dog and place the knees down, there are so many ways to do the physical practice so that you make it beneficial personally. All right, bend the knees, look forward, bottom of the exhale, walk or float to the top. Feet touch, inhale, lengthen halfway. Exhale, fold. Knees touch, inhale, sit low, lean back in chair. Then exhale to rise up. All right, let's flow continuously this round, slow and steady. Inhale into chair. Exhale to fold forward. Inhale, lengthen halfway. Step back or float back. Lower into your version of your vinyasa or go straight to downward dog. When you arrive in downward, inhale, raise the right leg. Exhale the foot forward, spin the back heel down. Inhale, rise to warrior 1 and exhale, lower into your vinyasa. At your own pace of breath, take it all the way through, back to downward facing dog. And once there, inhale, raise your left leg. Exhale the foot inside of your left hand, spin the right heel down. Inhale, rise to warrior 1, and exhale, lower through your vinyasa, meeting in downward dog. And when you arrive there, 3 to 5 breaths, slowing it down, bringing consciousness back to breath, space in the body, space in the mind. And as you're ready, at the bottom of your exhalation, lightly land at the front of your mat. Inhale to lengthen halfway. Exhale to fold. Knees bent, inhale to chair pose. From here, exhale to fold in. Inhale, lengthen halfway. Lower your fingertips outside of your heels. If you've got any tightness in the hamstrings or lower back, you might want to have your blocks under your hands. Step the left knee behind you into a kneeling lunge, Anjaneyasana. Separating your legs hips width apart. Stack your right knee directly above the heel. Now really firm that right heel down, so as you root down through it, you're able to lift the frontal hip bones and lift your torso upright. Then extend your arms forward, palms facing each other to start. Rotate the triceps downward, feel the shoulder blades slide down your back, and then bend your elbows. Pressing your fingertips into each other like this, sort of air prayer hands, not completely flat against each other. Keep your elbows exactly shoulders width apart. So feel the imprint of the strap from earlier and continue to splay the shoulder blades, that protraction, while sliding the shoulders down. Now as you feel your tailbone as if it's a heavy anchor, root it down and forward while scissoring your right hip back. So you maintain the squaring of your hips, keep firming down through your right heel, and then lift up through the center of your spine. Lift the back ribs away from the tailbone and feel that space in your lower back. And now begin to arch your back from right under your shoulder blades, lifting the chest, broaden it for 2 more breaths here. Now join your palms flat in prayer and inhale, lengthen your spine forward. Take your left elbow and cross it outside of your right thigh. It may help to use your right hand to press into the crease of that right hip and hook the left elbow first. And then rejoin the palms and keep turning the chest as you breathe out. Feel stability through your legs. Imagine, without seeing them move, that you're dragging your legs towards each other. Yep. Turning the rib cage, broaden your chest, and relax the shoulders down away from your neck. 2 more breaths in the spinal twist. Feel the spaciousness around your neck and shoulders and chest. Now look at your right foot and carefully lower your hands to frame it. Maybe you're using your blocks or going into half split, Ardha Hanumanasana. Draw your right thigh bone back into the hip socket to straighten the right leg so that you keep your left hip above your left knee. Flex your right foot, lifting the toes, and press the big toe mound forward, engaging the front muscle of your right thigh. Then broaden your chest, find a slight lift in it, like a baby version of cobra, elongating from your lower spine, hinge from your hips. Little by little, breath by breath, you might crawl the fingertips forward, keeping that slight lift in the chest and openness at your throat. Half split, 2 more deep breaths, opening up your right hamstring and your lower back. Now step back into your version of plank and either hold it, do a yoga push-up, or take a full-on vinyasa. You choose. We'll meet in downward facing dog. If you're starting to feel fatigued in those chaturangas, skip them. Conserve your energy to do them with integrity. When you arrive in downward dog, inhale, raise your left leg behind you. As you exhale, softly land the foot forward, but stay on the ball of your right foot into a high lunge. Energetically scissor the legs towards each other to root down and rise slowly into crescent lunge, arms overhead. So do bend your right knee for a moment and draw the tailbone down, lift the frontal hip bones, square the hips. And once you have your center feeling upright and contained, you might straighten the right leg. Now raising the arms up, rotate the triceps forward. Now feel core stability that's using various muscles of your torso from neck to glutes and all around, engaging them to stabilize the lumbar spine. Hug in the front ribs And now begin to tilt the torso forward. So you're just hovering off your left thigh. If you've got lower back issues, you might press your hands on your left thigh, added support, or bring the arms down by your sides, palms facing forward. We're here for 3 more breaths. Inhale, look ahead of your mat. Exhale, tree. Inhale, feel the squaring of your hips. Exhale, 2. Inhale, smile, it's done. And then exhale, lower your fingertips and step forward. Inhale, sweep the arms and rise up. Palms touch overhead. Exhale, bow all the way down. Lower your fingertips on blocks or the floor and step the right knee behind you into Anjaneyasana, a kneeling lunge. Legs hips width apart, front knee directly over heel. Root the left heel down. Energetically scissor the legs towards each other. And now lift your pelvis upright, lift your torso upright. Once you have that stability from below, extend the arms forward with palms facing each other, wrapping your triceps towards the ground. Feel the shoulder blades protract. Keep the shoulders down and then bend the elbows. Create that air prayer, your fingertips pressing into each other without the heels of the palms touching. And feel the imprint of your strap, keeping your elbows exactly shoulders distance. Now as you anchor the tailbone downward and forward, opening up the right hip flexor, scissor your left hip back. And as you lift up from lower spine to crown, lift the back ribs away from the tailbone. Then right underneath your shoulder blades, begin to contract, create a back bend, lifting the chest as you broaden it for 2 more breaths. As you do this, be aware of not protruding your front ribs forward, but sealing the bottom of your front ribs towards your back body. Yes, upper abdomen engages. Now join your palms flat at your heart center and lengthen the spine forward as you breathe in to twist. Exhale, turn your chest to the left. You could use your left hand and press it into the very top of your left thigh as you hook the right elbow outside your left thigh to get you in there. However you want to do it, feel stability through your legs, that energetic scissoring. Elongate the spine down the center line of your mat as you breathe in, relaxing the shoulders away from the neck. And as you breathe out, hollow your belly, use the side muscles of your core to help generate the twist at your waistline. So that as you turn the chest, the middle of it seeks to meet your thumbs. 2 more breaths. Now look down at your left foot and carefully lower your hands, frame it, maybe on blocks, setting up for half split. Plug your left thigh bone back into the hip socket and lift your left toes as you flex the foot. Keeping your right hip above your right knee, elongate the spine forward and lift the chest slightly. Hinge from your hips, little by little. Feel that as you're flexing your left foot, you're pressing the big toe mound forward and engaging your left quadricep as we support and open up your hamstring and lower back. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Maybe you're crawling the fingertips forward, keeping your throat open. Begin to make your way into your version of plank pose where you might do a yoga push-up, hold plank, cat-cow, or full-on vinyasa. Let's meet in downward facing dog. Downward facing. Inhale, raise the right leg behind you, squaring your hips. Exhale, step the right foot inside of the right hand into a high lunge. Staying on the ball of the left foot, root down, and slowly rise to crescent. Now bending your left knee, draw the tailbone down, lift your frontal hip bones, and square the hips forward. Feel stability at your center. Then from there, you might choose to straighten the left leg, going deeper into the hip flexor. Now, as you keep the arms up, or lower the arms by your sides, palms facing forward. The latter, less intense and better if you have lower back issues. Let's hug in towards the center line of your torso as you lean forward and hold. Inhale, exhale, 5. Inhale, firm the belly towards the spine. Exhale, 4. Inhale, steady your gaze ahead of your mat. Exhale, 3. Inhale, scissor the right hip back, bend the front knee. Exhale, 2. Last breath, smile. It's over. Lower your fingertips to the top of the mat and step forward. Sweep the arms and inhale to rise all the way up to stand. So if you have blocks that you might want to use for triangle, grab them and turn to face the wide width of your mat. Then open your arms as you stand at the middle of your mat and step or jump your feet apart so your ankles land under your wrists. We'll start in Warrior 2. Place your blocks behind your calves. So pivot your feet, rotating from your hips, your thighs, so that your left foot becomes your front leg. You turn out the left leg, you turn in the right leg. Then align your left heel to intersect the arch of your right foot and bend the front knee just over the heel. Feel the upright position of your pelvis as your spine elongates. Extend through the arms, relax the shoulders, and steady your gaze in front of your left hand. 5 deep breaths. Focusing on the depth and ease of your breathing. One more breath here in Virabhadrasana 2. And straighten your left leg. For triangle, you might like a slightly shorter stance for stability. Glide your hips towards your back leg and reach the left hand past your front knee before lowering it onto your left leg or just to the left outside of the leg, maybe using your block. Now feel that you're wrapping the left sitting bone under your body, trying to equally lengthen both sides of your torso, turning the chest slightly towards the sky. You might gaze towards your right thumb. Last 4 breaths. Utthita Trikonasana. Firming down to both feet. Inhale to rise up. Rotate from your hips and pivot both feet to face the opposite edge of your mat. Looking at your front foot, align the right heel to the arch of your left foot and bend your right knee just over the heel. You might widen your stance for Warrior 2. Feel your pelvic bowl sitting upright, your spine centered vertically between your feet as you open up your arms and relax your shoulders. Steady your eyes on one spot in front of your right hand, and let's take 5 intentionally balanced breaths. One more breath here. Then straighten your right leg. Now you might shorten the stance a couple inches for triangle. Slide your hips towards the left leg, reach the right hand forward, then down onto your leg or just to the right of it. Wrap the right sitting bone under, turn the chest slightly toward the sky, and lengthen as equally as you can feel through both sides of your torso and both sides of your neck. You've got 3 more breaths. Rooting down through both feet. Inhale to rise all the way up and step to the top of your mat. Now from here, separate the feet, hips width or wider parallel. Interlace the fingers behind your back and bend the elbows towards each other, lifting your chest. Take a deep breath. Then exhale, forward fold. Feel free to bend the knees any amount that you might need in order to truly release your neck and the rest of your spine. Just a few more breaths. As you extend the arms forward and away from your lower back, feel the openness in the front of your shoulders. And as you let your head go, relax the neck and create space in it by lifting the shoulders up away from your ears. One more deep breath. So these forward folds are helpful if you've got any tightness in the lower back and the backs of your legs. Now release the hands Heel toe your feet together for chair pose. Bend your knees together. Hug your midline with feet, with knees, with thighs. And extend the arms forward. Relax the shoulders and slowly lower into boat pose. Coming all the way down to sit. Lift your legs. Knees can stay bent to modify, or legs straight. Keep hugging your midline to your legs. Lift up from lower spine to crown and broaden your chest. Feel the confidence in your posture here. Last 4 breaths. Inhale. Exhale 4. Hug in your front ribs. Inhale. Exhale 3. Inhale. Exhale 2. One more deep breath. Lift up. And exhale, let it go. Let's bend the knees apart for just a moment of relief. So bring the soles of your feet together for Baddha Konasana. Catch hold of your outer feet or your big toes. Round the sitting bones and sit up tall. Then hinge from your hips, broadening your chest forward. If you like, you can crawl the fingertips forward. Really root the pelvis down, and from it, find a lift and a lengthening throughout your spine. Now, leading with a chest, breathe in to slowly rise up. All right, I forgot to mention at the start of the class that you may want to use a wall for this practice today. So if you happen to have one nearby, if you don't, that's okay. We're going to start without the wall, and then you can add the wall if you want to explore further. So we're going to begin in dolphin pose, setting the elbows to the floor from hands and knees. Now we've done that imprint of how it feels to keep the elbows solidly shoulders width apart. So be mindful of that as you set the elbows down, palms face down. If you have a slippery mat, you might opt to interlace your fingers and really root down the outer wrists. Forearms become your feet here, meaning they're carrying your weight. So be intentional of rooting down to your forearms and lifting the energy up. Rather than sinking weight into the shoulders, you're creating space in the shoulders, space in the neck. Now tuck the toes behind and lift the pelvis. Bring your feet together to touch. If you've got any tightness in the hamstrings that's causing you to round the shoulders forward, bend the knees. Try to get the shoulders either right above the elbows or behind the elbows. Pressing the chest back. Now you could either let the head hang, bearing no weight on it, or look forward towards your wrists, more active. Lift the shoulders, pull in the belly, and see if you can walk the toes forward closer to the elbows while keeping the shoulders or preventing the shoulders from hovering forward of the elbows. Take just another 3 breaths if you're still on it, and then come to rest in child's pose, keeping your head low when you come out of it. Anytime you're upside down for a while, you want to be wary of lifting the head so fast so you don't get lightheaded. Once you are in child's pose, let your arms rest anywhere you like. You might like to turn one ear towards the floor and gently stretch your neck, and then switch sides. Now, press your hands on the ground alongside your knees, and with a slow inhale, roll your spine upright to sit. And I'm going to demonstrate some variations that you can do with or without the wall. If you're with us yesterday, we did this forearm balance called Pincha Mayurasana. So I realized that I actually have a little piece of wall here. So I'm going to use that. We practiced L-shaped pose recently if you were in that class. So we're going to be really close to the wall, unlike L-shaped pose. So we're going to come down to hands and knees. So don't do it yet so you can see the process, and then you can decide where you want to fit into that process. We're going to come into a short dolphin pose. So the elbows are going to be on the ground. Boots are facing the wall, as close to the wall as possible. Same setup of creating space in the shoulders, protracting the shoulder blades. And then we'll tuck the toes. The heels will be right up against the wall, depending on the flexibility of your hamstrings. And then from here, we're going to start to lift one leg up. Maybe the toes are on the wall like this, and you're using the wall as you tuck the toes against it to square the hips like you would in half split or full split, Hanumanasana. Or you can use that to begin to extend the opposite leg up, trying to create a vertical line.
from your elbows, shoulders, and the heel that's off the wall. Flexing the foot, hugging your midline with your legs. Be careful not to overarch the lower back in which the front ribs push forward. And then when you do come out of it, again, keep the head low and rest in child's pose.
So if you don't have a wall, we've done this without a wall where you're in dolphin and you lift one leg up. And then you might rest and then do the opposite leg. Just being mindful of keeping your hips squared, flexing the lifted foot. So go ahead and try. If you're going to the wall, your glutes are facing the wall, as close to the wall as possible. You're on your knees and you set your elbows down, shoulders width. I prefer to have this interlaced fingers because it helps me to know my elbows are pretty stable, shoulders width. And then draw the shoulders away from the neck, protract the shoulder blades, and lift. See if you can walk the toes closer to your elbows while pressing the chest back towards your shins. Keeping the space in your neck, you could either just let the head hang free, or you could be looking forward towards your wrist. So maybe you're there in that inversion for 5 breaths or so, and then you lower to rest in child's pose. Nice, yes. And after child's pose, if you're up for one more round, your call. Otherwise, if you're staying in child's pose, you might like to add a side stretch and extend the arms forward. Crawl the fingertips over to one side, outside of your mat for a few breaths. And then switch sides. We'll all eventually meet in child's pose. Once you are in child's pose, go ahead and roll your spine upright again. And we're going to set up for a nice release of the shoulders after that camel pose, 2 rounds of it. So if you have a yoga block, especially if you feel any instability or tension in the lower back, very helpful to hug that block by the skinniest width in between your thighs as we set up for camel. Let's set up together. Tuck your toes behind you. Step your knees hips distance or as wide as the block will allow. Place your hands on your lower back with your fingertips face down. Gently press the pelvis forward and be mindful of keeping the pelvis directly above the knees the entire posture. Elongate the tailbone down towards the block while lifting the back ribs away from it. Then broaden the chest by bending the elbows closer together. Slide the shoulder heads down as you lift the heart, contracting the back right under the shoulder blades. And you're in camel pose for 5 or so breaths before you roll up to rest and sit. Now, if you can reach for one heel, making sure the pelvis remains above the knees, you can hold the heel with one hand and then switch hands or both hands. Being aware of not compressing the lower back or feeling any impingement in it. If you start to feel any, use your hands to help you roll the spine upright and gently come out of the pose to rest. Once you have sat down to rest, take about 3 breaths in that resting position. Before preparing for one more camel pose. If you prefer something more toned down than camel, you can come into bridge pose on your own, lying on your back. If camel, if you were able to reach for your heels while tucking your toes earlier, you might flatten the tops of your feet down to go a little further. Hands in the lower back, press the pelvis forward, lengthen the tailbone down, lift the back ribs, coil the chest up from right under the shoulder blades, 5 or more breaths. Remember, these back bends Encourage filling up the lungs to capacity. So feel how you're stretching your lungs with each breath. You're lengthening the fronts of the thighs here. When you finish, if you're on your back, stay on your back, and you might just drop the knees apart and rest there for a moment. Otherwise, sit down to rest for a few breaths. Just feeling into what's present now. And gently open your eyes. Let's come all the way down to our backs. Bending the knees, step your feet apart wider than your hips distance, maybe as wide as the width of your mat. Separate your knees just as wide apart as your feet, and drop both knees to your right side. As the knees fall over, point your left knee down the midline of your mat. Now we're opening up the front of your left hip and the back of the left side of your lower back, the psoas area. If you're not feeling much yet, you might pick up your right foot and cross your right ankle just above your left knee onto your thigh if you want a deeper sensation. You might also add raising the arms overhead, bending the elbows and catching hold of opposite ones while sliding the shoulders down. And now just breathe into where you feel the most sensation right now. Visualize the breath entering that space in your body, recognizing what it's feeling there, and answering to the call or that need for your attention. Breathe in, fill up your belly, fill up your rib cage, open the mouth, release the breath. One more, drink up a deep inhalation. Open the mouth and let it go. Release the arms, release the legs. Separate your feet again, wider than hips distance. Separate your knees just as much. Then drop both knees to your left side. Point your right knee down the center line of your mat. If you need to feel more sensation around your right psoas, pick up your left foot, cross your left ankle just above your right knee onto your right thigh. You might also raise the arms overhead and catch hold of the other elbow on top, switching, drawing the shoulders down the back. Does anything feel different on this side? Is there some part of your body provoking your attention? Listen in on that. What's it expressing? What's it needing? Fill up your belly, deep breath. Fill up your chest and back ribs. With a nice sound, let it go. One more time. Breathe in all the way to the top. Feel the fullness and clear it out. Release the arms, release the legs, and bend your knees towards your chest. Rock a little side to side to give your lower back a massage. So you might use that wall again to come into legs up the wall pose, which is a nice cooling restorative inversion. If you do that, you want to scoot your hips, one hip that is, the left or the right up against the wall, touching it, and then roll over to one side into a fetal position and scoot both glutes to touch the wall so that when you lift the legs up to rest on the wall, you're basically sitting on the wall with your back on the floor. Otherwise, you can lift the legs up in the air. You can come into shoulder stand or plow if you normally practice that and know how to do so safely. Take your cooling inversion for about a minute. Remember, if you're tilt the chin back away from the chest. Make sure you're not placing weight on your neck. Careful not to turn the head side to side, or torso off the ground. If you're in shoulder stand, you might pass through plow pose and stay for a few breaths as you make your way down. And coming down, you might finish off with fish pose. That's palms face down under the pelvis, legs straight forward, tilting the chin back, lifting the chest. Or happy baby pose. If your legs are up on the wall and you want to remain there for Shavasana, feel free not to move. You could be there as long as you're feeling completely supported so that it's effortless. And then from your finishing pose, take one last deep cleansing exhalation through the mouth as you land your body in your final resting pose, Shavasana. As you allow your breath to flow naturally, your eyes might remain closed. Decide if you'd like to lying down as you are and not move, or sitting up, in which you would start to move the body gently to rise, finding a comfortable seat. Now, this is a brief version of a longer meditation practice called RAIN, and it's a practice of self-empathy. So I'll guide you through the gist of it. Find your position to begin meditation in. Perhaps closing your eyes or partially closed, but gazing steadily at something in order to turn your attention inward. Feel your body physically supported. Feel the ease and flow of your natural breath. And the first stage of RAIN is to recognize anything within you, physically, mentally, emotionally, that is asking of your attention right now. Whether it be an uncomfortable feeling, a tension in the body, without overanalyzing it with the mind, just simply take notice. Is there anything calling your attention? And if there is, perhaps it's specific or something general, shine the spotlight of your attention there as you continue to sit with your breath. The second stage is allowing space for that feeling to be held without having to reject, suppress, or deny it. Being present with it, even if it's a bit uncomfortable. Feel breath supporting you in that presence. Notice if there's anything in the body's felt sense, which are more metaphorical sensations, like heaviness at the heart, giving you more clues about that feeling you're focusing on. Simply curiosity, noticing. Now the I in RAIN is investigate. As you've observed any felt sense, any sensations, any intuitive feelings about what you're focusing on. Just giving it space to breathe and to let you know what is being felt through it. Lastly, the N in RAIN stands for nurture. I invite you to literally speak to that part of you. Perhaps it's a vulnerable part that's been kept hidden. Asking it, what does it need of you to feel heard, to be digested? What is it asking of you? Remembering that emotions are messengers. Now, as you allow a deeper breath, direct it into that space. If there is a physical region, opening the lips, become more aware of your physical surroundings. If you're still lying down, with easy, gentle movements, begin to make your way up to join us in sitting. Once there, join your palms to meet at your heart, bowing in recognition of your openness to perhaps take a look at something that's not so easy to look at. or attempt something that might be new or not very comfortable in the practice today. Just giving thanks to yourself. As we close, chanting one Om, take a deep breath. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.